To become more aware of anything is to become more mindful, whether this is awareness of surroundings, of others, or of oneself. This mental state can help you be more present, more in tune, more creative, and more receptive. With this podcast, I hope to help you fine-tune your awareness, help you find positivity in your struggles, and give power to your mindfulness. This is Mindful Guidance. Hi, you guys. Welcome to the Mindful Guidance Podcast. My name is Mishayla, and I am so happy all of you are listening today. I know it's been a little while. I've been kind of busy with family in town and things like that, but I have been gathering up topics that I want to talk about, and today I want to talk about a whole bunch of them. I'm kind of throwing them all in one because I think they all are really important to a lot of things that are going on in our world right now. And this mainly kind of is geared towards like the health and wellness industry and the coaching industry in itself. But there's a number of things that I want to talk about because I, like so many people, was on social media a couple of weeks ago. And I went down the rabbit hole of following one specific person online who garnered a lot of attention. And I'm not going to go too much into detail with like who she is and what she is, because I don't really want to exploit her, because that's not really what I'm wanting to do, like so many other people have done. But I do want to talk about a lot of the stuff that's going on around the situation that I think is very, very, very important. And I think even though she was trying to bring something to light, she actually brought more to light than she realizes. And in a roundabout way, it's a good thing. So even though there's a lot of, negative attention going towards it, there was all these like kind of pockets of light that I was seeing that I really want to talk about. And again, I'm not going to go too far into it, but I will give like a kind of a little bit of a story and help you understand why, number one, this garnered so much attention, and number two, why I was drawn to it. And when I was watching it, I was like, oh, wow. These are so many things that I personally see in the coaching industry, in the online industry, in the social media industry, that I believe really needs to be talked about, because it's all encompassed in this one person's series online. And I just was like, so I started taking notes on it because I was like, I need to talk about this, because these are serious issues that I think, especially from somebody who has been in the coaching industry, and I don't take my job lightly. I'm very strategic with clients and the way I show up ethically when it comes to coaching. And I think a lot of what was happening in this situation was completely unethical on so many levels. And that's like the main focal point that I want to talk about. Because I just think it's so important as we move into, I don't even want to say as we move into more of an online community, because that's been what we've been doing for many, many years now. But, as things kind of change and evolve and grow, and the way our relationships with each other change and grow and evolve when it comes to online communication, when it comes to jumping online and talking about things, like, and just the way we utilize our abilities and our and kind of like how we're supposed to show up as coaches and as healers. Like there's a lot of ethics that I think are just not being used. Like I think people kind of just throw caution to the wind when they jump online, and they would do things that they normally wouldn't do in person. And I just think that we need to maybe not do that. And I think we need to talk about it a little bit. So first and foremost, let me just give you a little bit of backstory so you know what I'm talking about. And mind you, I have a little fan going right here because it's really, really warm in my apartment today. And like a true, official Californian, we have no AC. So I do have a little fan going. So I'm not trying to be Beyonce in here. I just really needed a little fan today. So I apologize if there's a little bit of white noise in the background. And if it looks like I'm trying to be like, I don't know what that is, like aesthetic with my hair, because it's hot. So back to what I wanted to talk about. So there is a story on specifically TikTok. And mind you, this is garnered national news now. So it's not like I'm bringing anything to the surface that isn't already out there that you couldn't find on your own. But there's a woman on TikTok specifically who came online to tell the story of how she felt essentially taken advantage of, or it's hard for me to say abused because it wasn't there. So, but this is her version of the story, her viewpoint of what she was telling online. And she came on to say that she fell in love with her psychiatrist, and she felt like her psychiatrist should have dropped her, should have stopped helping her, should have done things differently once she professed her love for him. So you can go and watch the story if you want. It's on TikTok, and again, you can Google it because it garnered attention. I read it in People magazine online. There was like a bunch of articles about it. I was like, I can't believe I'm like, this is popping up on my news feed right now, because like I just thought it was this crazy, I don't want to say crazy, but kind of wacky story that was like coming on my feed, and this woman that I was watching, and I was like, oh my gosh, this woman's kind of crashing out online. And I was feeling bad for her. Like when I was watching it, I couldn't take my eyes off it because I was like, oh no. Like I feel really, my heart was like bleeding for her in the beginning. I was like, oh no, like this should not be posted on, like this, please don't blast this like this, because it's not going to go the way you want it to go, because you're doing this for the wrong reasons. Like I felt really bad for her, so I was like, I was watching it kind of being like, oh, like there was a little part of me that wanted me to message her and be like, I don't know if this is a good idea, honey. Like this isn't like the way it's not going to work out the way you're going to want to work. It's the way you want it to work out. And it didn't. There's a lot of backlash. There's a lot of controversy around it. There's a lot of people talking about it. Again, there's people talking about it in ways like I want to talk about it, like where they're like, there's a lot of unethical things happening here. And then there's also a lot of people who are like piggybacking off of it and creating all these videos because it's in the algorithm and gaining a lot of attention. And because that's how social media works, people, create stitches and duets and hashtags based on, videos that are going viral. And then in that same sense, it makes them go viral. So whether they're doing it from the heart or in some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Maleficent way, it still garners more attention and starts flooding, and that's how things start to trend. But I chose to talk about it on my podcast because, number one, again, I don't want to like exploit this woman on social media, because it's exactly what she wants. And it's hard to say that when, like, I don't want it to be, it's hard to fit a lot of things in that I want to say in like a 3-minute video. I'd have to do like a 20-part series, which I don't want to do. So I was like, I'm just going to jump on my podcast and talk about this, because there are many, many points that, again, it's not about her and what she's doing. It's about the response to it and the sort of like why as I was watching her, I could tell why she was doing it. And I was like, oh, this is not good. But the reason I want to talk about it is because I see a lot of people doing this. And while she's catching a lot of heat and looking like, a lot of people are saying that she's having a psychotic break. A lot of people are saying that she's in psychosis. A lot of people are saying that she is, doing a lot of it for attention. It's like, it's interesting because she's not the only one that I see do this online. Like, I actually personally know people in my own personal life that are doing exactly what she's doing, and it's not going well for them for the same reason it's not going well for this woman. And this is why I want to talk about it, because I think when you show up in the online space, or even just in any space, as a coach, a teacher, a guide, a healer in any way, there are certain ethics you should be following. And a lot of the people that are posting about her are not doing that. And she herself was not doing that. And so this is what really triggered me about it, because I was like, I don't like this. And I don't like this part of our industry. Like, this is the part of the coaching industry, the healer industry, that I don't like, that makes the rest of us look really bad. And so it like feels personal, where I'm like, damn it, like, why, like, when people like this come online and start doing what they're doing to garner attention and feed their ego, and they're only doing it to feed their pockets, to get clients, to get attention, and they're doing it with the veil that says they're doing it to help others. When they come online and they're like, I just want others to see what I've been through, or see what I'm going through, so that I can help other people. But you know damn good and well that's not why they're doing it. And that's what gets under my skin, because I'm like, you're not doing this to help anybody but you. And it really bothers me. And so this is why I wanted to talk about it. So let's get into it. I took a bunch of notes because I knew I was going to forget everything. So let me see. Let me grab some water. Okay, first and foremost, the coming online to feed your ego. This is the number one thing that I see a lot, and it makes sense if you think about it. So when you're watching somebody in full ego, and that's exactly what I was doing with this woman. Like, this is why I wanted to talk about it, because the whole time I was watching her, I was like, this is not a woman who's coming on here because she wants to help others right now. She's saying that. She's saying, I just want to tell my story so that if I can help other people. And the thing is, that's a noble thing, right? You're like, that's amazing. Everybody who tells their story, that's typically the reason why they want to do it. Anybody who has been through something, come out of something, and come out better on the other side, it is so important to share your story so that you can help other people. Like, that is the reason why you tell your story. And the problem with this situation, and the problem with a lot of people who come online under this veil, they come of this veil of just wanting to help other people, is when you can see that it's coming from ego. And when you're watching somebody who's in full ego, when you can just see, there's like, the story of the two wolves, the light and dark wolf, and the grandson asks the grandpa, like, which wolf wins. There's two wolves inside a person. Each of us has one, and he asks the grandfather which ones win, and he says the one you feed. And the light one is like compassion and generosity and humility, and then the dark one is ego, it's anger, it's bitterness, it's the shadow. It's the shadow wolf. There's the light wolf and there's the shadow wolf. And whichever one you feed is the one that wins. And when you see somebody coming online in full ego, it's interesting because my mind immediately goes to, oh, they're feeding that wolf. Like, that wolf is hungry right now. That ego is in full force, and you can see that they're just wanting to receive. They're wanting to receive recognition. They're wanting to receive praise. They're wanting to receive compliments. They're wanting to receive, like, you go, girl, and I can't believe you're showing up, and you're so brave. Like, they want to receive all of these things, which is a good thing, only if you come online with your ego set aside. Like, the whole point of when you are coming online in ego, or when you're showing up, it doesn't even matter if you're coming online and doing it. If you are facilitating healing circles, plant medicine circles, any kind of program, any kind of workshop, if you show up in ego, number one, it's not going to go very well. It might go well for a little while because your ego will twist it around, but it's going to start not going very well because it's not correct alignment. It's not correct alignment. You're showing up to show off. You're showing up to collect money, which money matters in our society, but that it shouldn't be really the driving force with a heart-centered business. When you are in a heart-centered business, it is just that. You show up heart first, open-hearted, period. And the sole reason that you're there is to literally help others, to guide others through their darkness, to help others, get through what you've gone through, and get to the other side the same way you do. Like that's the trajectory, and that's the beauty of it. And I think everybody should do that from their heart. But when you show up in your ego, number one, most people see it. Like there's a lot of people who will see it right away, and it's icky. It feels icky when you go into a place and you're like, why is this person talking about themselves the whole time? It's one, again, we'll get to this. It's one thing to tell your story. We learn from our own story. We teach from our own story, and we want to tell our own story. But there's telling your own story and then just like talking about yourself all the time. And it's not really going anywhere. You're not really helping or implementing to help others. You're there to show off. A lot of healers, a lot of energy workers, I've seen this so many times in the last probably like 2 years. I see a lot of people come online just to show off, just to show that they're magic, or just to show that they're super intuitive or psychic, or that they have met this guru, or they're here now. Like it's very egotistical, and it's the complete opposite of what the heart-centered business is supposed to be. The heart-centered individual, it's like, even if they're telling you like the things they're doing, it doesn't come from a place of ego. It's not boasting. It's not bragging. It's just to like allow a little piece of them to come through. And that's very different than showing up when your dark wolf is hungry and just wants to be told, oh my gosh, you're amazing. You're so beautiful. You're perfect. Thank you for everything you do. You've changed my life. Like all of those things are great, and they do give you boosts, but it's not the reason why you should be there, if that makes sense. And when you show up in ego, it shows up so differently online. And this was the number one thing that I noticed when I was watching this go down. I was like, this poor woman is so far in her ego that she's not letting anything else in. She's like filtering out the honesty of people being like, hey, this doesn't sound right. I think people are worried about you, all these things. She was filtering that out and only hearing and reading what she wanted to hear. Just the feeling of it was very off-putting, because I'm like, I feel bad that this woman is desperately seeking recognition. She's desperately seeking validation. All she wants to do is be seen for who she is. And I could see that. I'm like, this woman just wants to be seen for who she is. She wants to be validated for who she is at her core. The problem is when you come from ego, when you show up online, when you show up at the front of your workshop, when you show up at the front of your healing circle and you're in ego, you will not be seen for your heart. You're not going to be seen for what you truly are, because your ego is overshadowing. You're literally coming from your shadow. So when the ego is overshadowing everything, people won't be able to recognize you for who you are and see you and validate you for who you truly are at your core, at your heart center. All they're going to do is see you and recognize you from ego. And sometimes that's good, which is what's kind of messed up about the whole situation, is sometimes the ego is important, right? Like I don't believe in ego death. I don't. I believe in ego management. I believe that ego is important in some places. It can be a very amazing protector. It can be a huge, helper in confidence boosting, but it also can be incredibly damaging. It can be very, very, very self-damaging because it gets so hungry. It gets so hungry. And once it gets a tiny, tiny taste of that fame, of that recognition, of that praise, it won't stop. It's going to take a lot to stop. And there's a lot of people in the coaching industry who are seeking the same thing. They're seeking the validation and the yearn to be seen from the heart. But the problem is like a lot of times that gets really messy, because in order to show up for yourself online or in front of a group of people, there has to be a tiny bit of ego there, right? Like a little bit, because that's what's going to boost you to the front and have the confidence to speak up and get that energy flowing. But the best way to show up is to understand that you need that tiny little bit of ego for that confidence, and then to ask it to step aside. Okay, thank you for getting me to here, but I need you to step aside so I can speak from the heart. Because if ego is in the way, you cannot speak from the heart. You can't. Like, and it will be real off. And people will be able to see that. There's going to be an imbalance there. You're going to be imbalanced. If you're trying to teach people when you're imbalanced, then they're going to be imbalanced. We're all feeding off each other all of the time energetically. And so if you are not in a balanced place to come and teach, instruct, guide, do energy work, heal, whatever it is you're doing, if you are not in a balanced place, it's okay to not. It's okay to take a day off. It's okay to reassess. Like, one of the things that I was taught when I was going through my emotion code class, like, in order to get certified, I had to sign a lot of ethical content to say that in order to do this practice, I have to take care of myself. I have to make sure that I'm constantly doing work on myself so that I do not show up in ego, so that I do not show up imbalanced or negative or in a bad way, because number one, you can project that onto your clients first and foremost, and number two, it's just not healthy for you to try to keep showing up when you are not in a healthy place. Like, you have to do the work on yourself when you're doing these kinds of jobs in this kind of business, because otherwise it can really throw off your business. It can throw other people off. They're going to feel weird. They might have good experiences in the beginning, but then they're going to try to figure out why it feels different. People read each other without, you don't have to be a super high intuitive psychic to read another person. Like, we all can read a room, especially when we're in intimate spaces with people. And I think it's just really important that we make sure we're taking care of ourselves before we show up for other people, period. And watching this person talk the way she was talking, that wasn't it. And you can see when somebody's out of balance. They're coming from ego, completely out of alignment, completely out of balance. And it's unfortunate because in those moments, in that desperation to want to be seen, you're just not being seen for who you truly are. And so it's garnering negative attention for that reason. And I feel bad because I see this often lately, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media. I think, there's so many of us who, in order to promote ourselves, you got to go online, right? That's what they tell you. You got to be online. I watch so many people in all businesses, whether they're in real estate or accounting or tax people or whatever you're in, everybody's online trying to promote themselves. But in order to do that, you have to bring a little ego to the situation. You have to be able to have the cojones to come online and talk about yourself and be like, look at me, I'm the best, hire me. There is ego involved in that. So it's important to recognize that. Like, you have to recognize that. But you also have to have the self-awareness when you're not stopping because you're liking the attention, you're liking the comments, the likes, you're so far in the comment section that you're actually not, giving your actual outside business the attention it needs. I see a lot of people going more and more, they're on lives all the time, and they're online all the time, which it might be really beneficial to them. But when you're doing it in an imbalanced way because you like the attention, as opposed to, like, all of a sudden you're making your business more about you and the recognition you're getting through, like, your dopamine hits and the likes and the analytics on your social media, then there's a good chance that you might have switched from the heart center to the ego center. And you kind of have to, like, play with that a little bit, because again, it can be good. If your business is cranking online and it is doing well because of your engagement, because that's exactly what social media wants, is the engagement, then maybe that is what you're supposed to do, and it's beneficial to you. But if it's draining you, if you're getting a lot of negative attention, if it feels weird a lot of the times, like, you might be out of alignment with it, and it might be not what you're supposed to be doing. Because, and again, if you're chronically checking things because you want to see what's happening with your analytics, or you're trying to see who commented and you're replying constantly, like, this forms something else. This completely forms something else, and it also feeds your ego. And so we have to be really, really, really careful with that as we sort of connect with these programs and these algorithms, because we're not the same. Like, the human is not the same as the machine, quite yet, not quite yet. And so we have to make sure we're managing that in the proper way, because we have the dopamine hits, the machine doesn't. So we have to make sure we're managing it to where it's not turning, number one, into an addiction, and it doesn't have us feeding that dark wolf. I just think this is such an important piece that I find a lot of people doing. I found myself doing it. Like, I go through phases with social media, and I have to catch myself when I'm like, I feel like I'm doing too much. I feel like I'm trying to, like, it doesn't, and when it starts to make me not feel good, it makes me feel, I feel kind of icky. Like, I feel depressed. Like, if I'm online too much, I actually feel depressed. And the only way to kick that depression is to shut it down. And so I know that feeling because it's chemicals. Again, we, the human brain and body, have the chemicals that get affected. The machine doesn't. So we have to be really careful with how we interact with that, how we're using it, and how it's affecting our well-being and our confidence, and if it's feeding our ego. Because if you're showing up from ego, which all of this will feed if you're not careful, then it can actually backfire. And then all of a sudden business isn't doing so well, you're not doing so well. You start attacking people online, you start getting really into things that, like, are a little bit darker than you normally would, because it, like, you get that adrenaline rush and it starts to affect you chemically, and you start to find ways to balance that out, either to feed it or deplete it or balance it out. And it's a really interesting concept to think about. And this came up for me watching this woman, because I'm like, this is so much more than just coming on here to tell a story. Like, this is very engulfing and very addicting, and you can kind of see the ego being fed and the chemicals kind of firing, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be an addiction and an obsession, and that went from a real life situation and is now translating to an online situation because she wasn't getting enough out of the in-person situation. And one of the things that brings up for me too, and I think it's on the list here that I want to talk about, is the parasocial relationship. Because one of the things that happened in this situation where she, quote, fell in love with her psychiatrist, which, she did for whatever reason, but he wasn't reciprocating. And this is what kind of caused the firestorm. And the thing about that is that's a parasocial relationship, right? That's a one-sided relationship. And it was interesting to hear her continue to call it a relationship, that she was in this relationship and in this relationship when there wasn't one. It was strictly professional. It was clearly one-sided. And then all of a sudden, when she wasn't getting enough out of that relationship and she had to shut it down for different reasons, she came online. And when you come online, you end up creating parasocial relationships. So a lot of people who were sort of following her and commenting on her and getting on her lives and subscribing to her channel, all these different things, I was like, this is another parasocial relationship from her end and from the followers. Because that's what we have with people when we get online, right? We have these one-sided relationships. It's like people who follow a celebrity for decades, and then they finally see their favorite celebrity in person, and they go up to give them a big hug, and they feel like they know them, right? Because they've been following them from day one, from the very first time they saw them on YouTube until this massive concert or movie premiere or whatever. And they go running up to the person and go to give them a hug or to get a picture or wave, and the person's like, hey, whatever, sorry, because they don't know who they are. But the other person is really let down because they know them. And they're like, wait, so now I didn't get the reciprocity. I didn't get the validation of being like your biggest fan or somebody who knows you so well, but they don't know me because it's a one-sided relationship. And so this now happens online with influencers. It happens with just people in general, like anybody you're following, because we all have followers and follow other people, right? Which is like kind of an interesting concept. And if you are following somebody really closely and they don't follow you back, that's a one-sided relationship. So you can feel like you know somebody and you're supporting somebody, and then if something happens with that person that you don't care for, like you can get annoyed with them. You're like, ew, like they've changed, or this is weird. I don't want to follow them anymore. And at the end of the day, they don't care. They don't know you. And so it's like, but it's this weird creation of parasocial relationships. And that was something that I was witnessing watching this. I was like, and it was weird because it went from her having a one-sided relationship with this person to creating a one-sided relationship with people online, and then other people creating one with her. And it's like nobody really knows each other. Like it's all this one-sided kind of weird, nobody's really connecting. It's like this really interesting thing to watch. And I just think parasocial relationships are something that they're fascinating to me, because a lot of people will act like she's like so crazy for having this relationship, but then they'll do the same thing with her. They'll like comment in her comment section or DM her or support her, buy these things or whatever, and she doesn't know who you are. So it's like you're kind of, it's not the exact same, but it's a similar concept, right? We are now always creating these one-sided relationships with people that we follow. And so it's an interesting thing to think about, because the reason why this resonated with me so much watching this woman was, even though she came off as being kind of, a train off the tracks, a lot of the stuff that she was doing, people do every day. People just don't really catch themselves doing it because most of it's done online with a person they don't know. And so it's like this really interesting concept to think about, because I'm like, while this took a turn, right? It was some Fatal Attraction-ish. It was also just really intriguing to see the response to it all, because I'm like, people do this all the time. I see it all the time online. People get really upset with influencers and celebrities and have all these opinions and comment in their comment sections and share all these things with messages for them or whatever. I'm like, it's one-sided. And so I'm like, I don't know what we're doing with this. And again, I mean, I've done it. I've commented in people's comment sections where I'm like, I want to support somebody and I just want to like raise my little hand that says, congratulations on whatever you're doing. This is amazing. Like, you want to be supportive of people that resonate with you and that you feel have, earned the recognition that they earn. But it ends up being a parasocial relationship because I don't really know them and they definitely don't know me. So it's just this really interesting thing to think about when we, want to call somebody wacky for having a one-sided relationship in real life, because it's like, it's all real. You know what I mean? Like, our online world is very real right now. And so it's just something I think we need to pay attention to. We need to kind of sit back in the seat of self and look and see like where we might be doing the same things, because like I said, I see it all the time in the online world for sure. So parasocial relationships is just it's a concept I've been thinking about a lot of as I see more and more videos pop up about people's relationships with people that they don't know. So that was a topic I kind of wanted to talk about. So again, this is just a mindfulness situation, something to think about, something to get your brain churning a little bit. And again, it's not like calling anybody out, but it's also just like, I like to question things. Like, I like to question myself. I like to look at other people and say, well, we need to like question ourselves as a society, because there's always even little pockets of things like this that are happening. If it's happening in one place, it's happening somewhere else. But where is it happening? If that makes sense. Okay. Okay. This was the other thing I really wanted to talk about that I felt like she was definitely doing. And this is something I have seen many times. And I actually saw it in a handful of women just like last year. And it bothered me. And so this is something I want to talk about. So I wrote down in my notes that, there's a lot of coaches, again, heart-centered coaches, who will come online and like try to put down other people. Like, they come online and they try to find circumstances where they want to like be mean to other people, like call out other people or post lies about other people. Like, And then they use that. It's a manipulation tactic because they jump online to garner attention, like in comment sections, or be mean about other people because they didn't agree with something somebody posted, or I don't really know a lot of times where it comes from. But they'll come online to like essentially talk shit and kind of stir the pot in order to draw attention to themselves. Again, from ego. You can always tell when somebody goes from heart center to ego because on one hand, for the most of the time, they're this light person. The way they promote themselves is very authentic. It's very genuine. And then all of a sudden, there's like bitterness there. Like all of a sudden, you can see them. They're like they're being mean about other people. They're being bitter. They'll in their comment sections, it's like, well, at least I didn't say this about someone. And then it kind of like it gets these heated arguments going to build up their algorithm or the conversation in their comment sections. And I've seen people do this in order to manipulate people coming to them as clients. So it's this really strange thing that happens when people sort of put themselves into a victim place, into a place of victimhood in order to make people kind of feel sorry for them, or again, feed their ego in a way. So people will want to know more about them. And because people will always jump in somewhere and be like, oh, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. Oh, let me know if there's something I can do. I'm so sorry that, that you're going through this or whatever, which that's the support we want. And it's important to get that support. But when you turn that into a manipulation tactic to where it's one thing to say, thank you for the support and move on. It's another to all of a sudden the ego turns on, that wolf comes alive and it's like, oh, they're giving you attention. Oh, this is your time. This is your time to keep digging, to keep staying in that victimhood, to keep sort of playing the fiddle, however you need to milk this, because this is your chance. You get the people to come to you and now's your chance to sell yourself. Now you sell yourself. You garnered this attention from this kind of this heated discussion. Now's your chance. Like now's the chance to promote. And that's exactly what this woman did. And this is why I wanted to talk about it, because I was watching her, like 3 videos in, I knew, like for whatever reason, I just had that intuitive voice was like, oh, she's going to promote herself. She's going to take this and promote herself. Like this is going to be a weird manipulation. Get people hooked, get people feeling bad, and then twist it and be like, and because I'm a coach too, I know exactly what people are going through. So in my coaching business, what I do is ... And I see this all the time now. And I'm like, no. That to me is unethical. It is. There is a fine line with teaching from what you have been through, telling your story, in telling your truth. By the way, you have to tell the truth, and coming from a place of healing from what you've been through. Like the whole point of coming online or sharing your story is to share your story so that you can help somebody else. Period. End of story. Like you come online, and if it helps one other person to share your story, to know that they're not alone, that you've been through what they've been through, and you want to show somebody who's going through what you went through that was a really challenging time, that you can come out the other end a better person. Like that is why you tell your story. And I encourage everybody to do so. If you've been through something, you've healed from something, and you want to teach and how to help people come out of dark shit, please do. But when you come online, again, from ego, from your shadow, from a manipulative place to make people feel sorry for you in such a way that as soon as you get the, oh, I'm so sorry, like, that you're going through this or that you went through that, and then immediately your response is, well, I mean, if you want to join my program, because I'm a coach, and all of a sudden you start promoting yourself from that place. It's like, it's not heart-centered, it's from ego, and it's icky. And it's hard to talk about because if you don't understand it, a lot of people, this will bother a lot of people. Like a lot of people, if they're hearing this and I post this part on my social media, this part will probably bother some people because they'll be like, oh, so you shouldn't tell your story because it's going to come off manipulative. No. And that's what I just tried to explain. No, you want to tell your story, but I'm just saying there's a lot of people who will somehow flip themselves into a victimhood place. People will feel bad for them, so it starts to garner this attention. And because the attention is there, they're like, now's your chance to, you know what I mean? Now's your chance to snap. Now's your chance to grab. Like it's coming from it's venomous. It's manipulative. It's not in the same way where you come on from your heart, from your light, with your ego set aside, and you come on and you tell your story with all the heartfeltness that you can possibly give and the honesty and the authenticity. And then you say, and look, from here, I came out of my darkness and into my light, and now I teach people to do the same, and this is why. And this is where you can find me. All are welcome. Whatever, however you want to turn that. It's a fine line from when you are coming from your ego to show up and your victim mindset that has people feeling sorry for you to all of a sudden, strike while the iron's hot. Then when you show up online in authenticity and promote yourself from your light. So when you're coming from your shadow, you're going to get shadow back. And that's something that I've witnessed before. And I've seen it, unfortunately, in a lot of different ceremony groups and different women's groups. I've seen this a couple times. And I went to a women's group, I don't know, maybe last spring or something. I went to this weekend program. It was a lot of journaling, and they had all these speakers and energy workers and all this stuff. And I was so excited to go, but half of the people who were standing up in front and teaching and stuff, it was just this really strange feeling where I was there was the few that were really there from the heart, and then the ones who were there from strictly ego. And it was more of showing off, look at who I am. It wasn't really this it just doesn't feel right. And again, it's you're going to come across this all the time, and this is how you choose people to work with, right? If you align with somebody, when your hearts are open and you align, that's a beautiful experience. When you're working with somebody who's in their ego, it's very standoffish. It can come off really harsh, a little strange, a little needy, a little little pretentious, a lot pretentious actually. So it's just an interesting thing to watch out for, especially when you are spending a lot of money, on a coach or on, I don't even want to say therapist or anything like that, because I feel like they're in their own category. They get degrees, they have their separate certifications, and they actually go through the medical field to where their ethics are sort of written out a certain way. But I think it's really important when it gets to the coaching, stuff that I do. I'm not a licensed medical practice person, but I do have certifications and all of these things that I did, separately. So yeah, I'm certified emotional practitioner, I'm certified personal trainer, but I'm not medically connected to any kind of board or anything like that. And I just think it's really important that when you're spending a lot of money on coaches and practitioners and things like that, that you're hopefully doing it with somebody that you're truly aligned with, and that is actually coming from the heart and is really wanting to help you, and isn't just wanting to be there from ego, and isn't trying to play the victim the whole time to get you to feel sorry for them so that you will buy their course. It's just this really weird thing that I've been seeing lately. And it's not, I think a lot of times people don't even know they're doing it. I think, again, social media twists things a lot. Social media is very egoic. And so it's once you start getting that, that feeling that people are paying attention to you, that people are recognizing you, that people are wanting to work with you, then you're going to strike, but you just have to make sure that you are doing it from your heart and not doing it because you've turned to greed. Okay, I'm getting kind of off track here. Um, one of the things that this woman was using was AI. This is another reason why this story garnered a lot of attention, because she incorporated artificial intelligence. She incorporated 2 different programs, and she was talking to them like they were real. Even though she over and over again said that she knows they're not real. She's very aware they're not real. But the fact that she was utilizing them and manipulating them to feed her ego as well was a huge part of this story. And this is something else that I wanted to talk about, because this is something else that I keep seeing in a lot of the online businesses and in the coaching businesses and things. There's a lot of AI written programs, which I don't care for. I'm sorry if you do it. I don't know. I just feel like, again, AI to me is a tool. It's a tool. It is not, it doesn't replace my work. And and so when you're using it to replace something, I don't know, this is tricky, and I might have to do like another podcast on this one, because I'm getting kind of late into this one. But AI to me should be used as a tool. It shouldn't replace everything, because as soon as it starts replacing too many things, then that's when you kind of relinquish control. And so I think there needs to be this really gentle balance between using AI as a tool and also kind of relinquishing control in a lot of sense, because that really freaks me out. And that's a lot of what she was doing. She was definitely manipulating it and, programming it to tell her what she wanted to hear. So again, it was like she wasn't getting what she wanted from the psychiatrist. She wasn't getting really what she wanted online, because people were being brutally honest and telling her like, hey girl, like this is not it. And so she turned to AI to talk to her AI friends, and they were telling her what she wanted them to say. And so that was another manipulation tactic. And it's actually kind of scary if you think about it, because this is exactly why AI can get a little bit out of hand. Because again, if it's in the wrong hands, it can be programmed a certain way. And if it can be programmed to feed the ego of somebody who is seeking that God complex, because that's exactly what happened with this poor woman. I mean, her AI was calling her the oracle and the knower of all things. And again, I mean, can you imagine, like, something is telling you that's who you are and that's how you're showing up? I mean, that will, if you don't already have a God complex, that will sure create one. And this is another thing we have to really watch out for in this industry, is those people with those God complexes. Like, it is so important to make sure that who you're working with, who you're choosing to work with, who you're giving lots of money to, again, doesn't have a God complex and isn't just kind of using you as a person to boost them up. Because if they're coming from the heart, they are there to help you and to help guide you through your darkness, like holding your hand through the dark and helping you find your way. If they're not, they shouldn't be there to boost themselves. It ends up happening because a rising tide lifts all boats. And any good client that has success is always going to boost you as a coach, period, end of story, because then you can share your success stories. You're doing well, I'm doing well, and this is how the tide rises. But if they're only doing it to sort of promote themselves through you, and it's like this weird, like, again, like to try to prove how great they are, it's like, you know what I mean? This is why people are drawn to humility. Like, when people are humble and they're like, thank you for the recognition, but I'm just here to help them, And because if they're just like trying to brag about all of the things they're doing, that is coming from ego, and it's unhealthy. It's not really a good place to come from, and it ends up backfiring. And I think it works for a while. I think we're seeing this a lot in society too, right? There's a lot of egoic things happening in our society, and it works for a while. It really does, because momentum happens and people get excited, and then when other people come in and their egos are being fed, there's a lot of energy behind it, and it actually can be beneficial in a lot of ways, but it doesn't last long. because it ends up crumbling, because the light finally comes through, the truths come out, and eventually the ego crumbles. And so it's an interesting thing to sort of watch from an outside perspective, which is something I think I tend to do a lot. And I see it kind of in layers. Like I see this one person doing it online, but then I kind of see it in mass happening as well. And I just think we need to be careful, and we need to be diligent, and so kind of just making sure like our senses are open to make sure that the people that we're working with, especially when it comes to the coaching and the wellness industry, that we're working with them and in a way that is ethical. There has to be some kind of, the ethics are in place, and just making sure that the person isn't coming from ego just to keep hearing how amazing they are, just to get this praise of how amazing they are, because eventually it's a huge turnoff. And it's like, I don't know. I've seen it in a couple different places. I've seen it even with like some of the really big like health and wellness retreats and programs and stuff. Like I think a lot of those people are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're just they're doing, it's weird stuff. It's weird. And I'm like, well, they're fully in ego. So the more attention they get, the more extreme they have to get in order to get the attention. Because once you start faltering and you're not getting the same views, you're not getting the same streams or whatever it is, what's next? Well, what's next is going to be a little more shock value in order to get people's attention on you again. And that just kind of keeps building and building and building and building. And again, we just have to be careful with working with people when they're coming from their shadow and when they're coming straight from ego, because it ends up not being beneficial for anybody. It ends up hurting the client. It ends up hurting the teacher or the counselor, or not counselor, the coach. And I just, again, it's like, it's so important to have that self-care and that self-awareness, which again was definitely missing in this storyline with this woman. And this is something I actually want to talk about too. There's self-awareness, and there is self-indulgence, and there is like self-involvement and self-obsession. And I think that happens, I think the reason why there's a lot of this happening now is because of the self-help industry, is because of the wellness industry and the self-healing industry, which again is a good thing. We all should go on a self-healing journey to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, that we're working with our shadows, that we're getting back into the light, that we're getting stronger, more empowered, releasing emotion, releasing trauma, all of those things 100%. But when we become obsessed with it, when we become so self-involved that self-awareness has gone out the window. And if you can't recognize that when you've crossed the line from self-awareness into self-obsession, that's a problem too. Because again, self-awareness is you're on a healing journey, your heart is open, you're working on yourself. Self-obsession is ego. And now everything's being fed to you in such a way that you're pushing things out and only focusing on things that you're obsessed about because it's your healing journey. Nothing else matters. This is all about me, my healing journey, which again can be a good thing. Okay, setting the boundaries, doing all those things. But once you reach a point where you're so like self-involved, you've hit the point of ego. And now you have to work through that. Like that's a whole nother shadow thing you have to work through. And I just think it's really important to people recognize that that's a new addiction. Like I've watched so many people be so obsessed with self-care and self-healing and all of the retreats and the plant medicines and the this and that. And pretty soon I'm like, are you integrating it anything, or are you just constantly trying to seek this healing? Like you have to integrate, you have to calm the waters for a while to make sure that the things that you're working on, the things that you're learning and doing are integrating back into your life, and your life isn't being, like you're not just obsessing about that, because that's into full addiction. And that's something that is kind of was happening in this situation too. And I think it's in the notes on my phone that I wanted to talk about, is like making sure that your self-healing journey it doesn't become that, like, you're not so addicted to it that you can't stop trying to, everything's about the self all of the time. Because if you're about the self all of the time, then that's an imbalance in itself. Us humans, we are here to give back. We're here to work with one another. And if we're only working on ourselves always, then that's an imbalance. So we have to be able to work on ourselves all the time. I mean, self-healing, we're never healed, right? Self-healing is like, we're always a work in progress. We're always changing, we're always evolving, we're always growing. And I think we should always be making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. But when we're so engulfed in ourselves that we're not giving back to others, and we're not working with others and entangling with others and opening our heart to others and receiving from others as well, shutting people out just because you're so self-involved is not good either, then it's an imbalance. And we need to make sure that, again, we have that self-awareness to recognize, like, oh, I think I'm getting a little too far into this. And again, getting too far into it can be really damaging. And this was part of that as well. It was like the obsession of all the therapies, of all the modalities, of all of the coaches and therapists and energy workers and all these modalities, that how many can one person use, right? It's like, your Enneagram and your human design and your astrology charts and your this and that. It's like, how much can you really take in before you're not even really doing the work anymore? You're just like self-obsessing and self-absorbing and trying to put all these into place where they don't really even belong. And you end up, you have to recognize you're actually not really even doing the work anymore. You're just obsessing out at something outwardly when the work isn't here. And so if you're too engulfed in all of the charts over here and all the numbers and all the things out there, then the work is actually not being done. So you have to make sure that you're taking that information and integrating it and making sure you're doing the work and embodying it. Like, you have to embody all of that stuff. And sometimes it's so many things that you can't embody it. So it's just interesting to watch out for that too, because again, that was something that really took shape in these videos as well. I was like, the self-healing obsession and the constant using of that word. Like, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. This is my healing journey, and I don't care what anybody else has to say. I don't care how it affects other people, because this is about me. The amount of times I heard her say that, I was like, this is how I know you're an ego. Because if you are really healing and doing the work, you'll start to recognize that, yes, you want to do your own healing, but you have to be accountable for what you're doing, how you affect other people, how your energies interact, that it's not always about you, that it does matter it should matter a little bit how you're affecting other people, because this is human. This is how we human. This is what we're supposed to be doing. So if you're affecting other people's lives because of the way that you're being, that's something that you do need to work on. And it isn't just about you. So when you start using those words and shutting people out and just saying, like, this is all about me, you're an ego. You're 100% an ego. So there's self-healing and there's self-obsession. Okay, there's self-love and then there's ego. Like, there's these real fine lines, and we have to make those proper adjustments all the time, because if we don't make the proper adjustments, then if we're this way, we're out of balance. If we're this way, we're out of balance. And this is why it's so important to find your balance with all of those things. Recognize when your ego is in front and say, I don't need you right now. Please step aside so I can tell my story from the heart. And when you are working with other people as a coach, to make sure that your heart is open and you are there strictly for them. When you are in front and you're teaching and guiding and healing, it's about them, period. You don't get to, like, if you want to talk about your stuff, if you want to trauma dump, that's for you. Go to your own coach or your own therapist or your own people. And if you want to do that online, that's fine too. If you want to vlog everything and use online as your diary, that's fine too. But you don't twist it and manipulate it into saying that you're doing it to help others, when really what you're doing is you're wanting to vent and get things off your chest, because that's allowed. Like, that's 100% allowed. If you want to just get things off your chest and process things as you talk into whatever void you want to talk into, that's totally your choice. And I think that's a great outlet. but you have to kind of recognize why you're showing up, how you're showing up, and who you might be damaging in the process, especially if you're being untruthful about accusations and things like that. Like, you have to be really, really careful, because if the internet does anything, it will check you. Like, the internet is big sister energy. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you've never had a big sister to check you and say, you're lying to me, you're lying. What were you doing? Were you being bitchy? Tell me if you're being bitchy, because I can tell you're lying to me. If you don't have that, like, the internet is that. The internet will tell you. The internet will check you. And it's really important to make sure that when you are going to the internet, that you understand the space you're stepping into as well. So, there were, a handful of people who were commenting on this woman's video, and then on a couple other videos that people were doing. And there were some people jumping on there saying, you know what, this is why I don't tell my story openly, because I don't want people to not believe me, and I don't want to get bullied. I don't want the backlash, because I don't want the hate. I don't want the negativity. And it makes me really nervous to tell my story, because I don't want that. And this is why, again, it's so annoying when people come on and play the victim and blatantly lie about things, because it actually backfires, because you think you're going to come on here and tell your story, but it backfires because you're not doing it from the heart, and you're going to receive that you're going to receive that backlash. And even though you're saying you want to help people, that's a huge deterrent for other people, because they look at it and they go, I don't want to do this because you came on here and you're getting a lot of backlash, and that's scary to me. And I want people to believe me, and I want to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from, and my truth matters and my story matters. And the bottom line is, it does. It matters so much. And everybody, again, I said this before, everybody should tell their story. Everybody, if you have something to say, if somebody has harmed you, if you've been through abuse, if you've just been through like the darkest, nastiest, like dark night of the soul, and you've come out of it and you want to share your story because it's going to help somebody else, please do it. Please, 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 please do it. Don't let something like this, a story like this, deter you from doing that. But the main thing that I want to let you know is when you are ready to disclose and talk about what you've been through, make sure you do it in a safe space, period. In a safe space, to somebody you love, somebody you trust, a program that is designed, a coach that you trust, a therapist. Choose your space. Just make sure it is safe. And the internet, it's not the safest space. It's not. Sometimes it can be. There are pockets of it that are safe. There's Facebook groups and different subscriptions and groups and things that you can join that are very safe. But just the open part of the internet is typically not. You're really opening yourself up for that discourse. And if you're ready for that, okay, then so be it. But you just have to remember that, like, you want the place that you disclose and talk about things to be safe. Because if you're trying to work through your darkness, if you're trying to work through your shadows, like, you want to make sure that you have somebody there that you trust, that can walk with you hand in hand through those shadows, and not try to keep you in them, not try to keep you in the dark, not try to confuse you, not try to capitalize on you, not try to exploit you, not try to damage you any more than you've already been. You want somebody to walk you through the dark and into the light. And typically you're not going to be able to do that on the internet. Some people can, and those are the anomalies, but to those people, I just say, like, just choose a safe space to disclose. And once you're ready to go online, then do it. Just understand that the majority of people who end up going online or talking in bigger groups of people, or maybe they do, seminars or things like that, they typically started telling their story in a really safe space, one-on-one, in a small group. And then as their confidence grew, as their heart opened, as their shadows fell, as their emotions released, then they were able to gain the confidence to speak it in front of more and more and more people. And so by the time they came online to tell their story, they were prepared. They were prepared for the backlash. They were prepared for the discourse. They were prepared to have hard conversations because they've already had them. And so that's typically what you see when people come online. The ones who come online and aren't prepared are the ones you see that will retract and be like, oh, maybe this is a bad idea, because the online world is not safe. It's not pretty, it's not safe, and it's not nice. again, it's big sister energy, the one who is going to come to you and be like, we need more information, and we're going to tear you down or we're going to lift you up, but you don't really know which one. And so you have to be really careful about that. And so that's like the message I have for those people who are weary or concerned about telling their story and with the fear of not being believed, because you'll be believed, because especially when you're talking from the heart, when you're telling your truth from the heart with your ego set aside and you disclose in a safe space, you'll have nothing to worry about. And it is important to tell your story because there is a huge chance that your story will help somebody else. So that is a huge part of this that I wanted to talk about, because I kept seeing those comments and I was like, man, like this is getting messy, because I don't want people to feel like they can't talk about what they've been through, because that keeps bad people in the dark, and we don't want that anymore. Like that's not the time for this. It is our time to shine the light on the dark. And, unfortunately, some people think they're in their light. Like that's kind of the interesting part about this too, is some people think they're in their light because their ego is telling them that they are. The ego's like, yes, now's the time. You are in your, whether it's chemical, emotional, whatever it may be, but the ego's like, now's the time. And it twists, the ego manipulates to make people feel like they're in their light when they're not, where they're actually still in their shadows. And unfortunately it can be really damaging. It can be a little bit self-destructing when you are believing that you're doing something from the heart when you're not. And that's the tricky part about it. It's like, it's not easy. And this is why I wanted to talk about this story, because it's like complex. I was watching this, and again, like I feel bad for her. Like at the end of the day, I feel so bad for her, because again, she just wants to be seen. She wants to be seen for who she is. And, I'll touch on this briefly because I'm running out of time, but she does mention she's a projector in human design. And again, this took, a lot of people were like, what? It made human design look kooky. And I was like, oh, great. Because human design isn't that kooky when you dive into it. But the thing about projectors, I am a projector, is what we are driven by is recognition and just being seen for who we are. And so I know how that feels, to just want to be seen for who you are at your core and be recognized by people that matter to you. And when you don't get that, it can really switches to where you start seeking it in dark places. It's like looking for love in all the wrong places type of situation, because you just want to be seen. And that's why I feel for this woman, because I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. Like, oh, it's like, it like hurt my heart. And even though she's doing a lot of kind of damaging things, and I feel bad for her psychiatrist, obviously, I also I just feel bad for her, because I can see exactly what's happening. I can see it. You don't have to be a clinical diagnosis medical professional to see what's happening. And so that's why I don't really feel bad really, kind of giving my opinion on it, because I don't think you need like a huge medical degree to watch this and go and not have an opinion on it. That doesn't make sense. So anyway, there were so many points on this that I wanted to talk about, but I am definitely running out of time, and I'm going to end it here because I don't even know if this will fit on my podcast thing, but we're going to see. Okay. Each podcast is a new adventure over here. But anyway, as always, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope I wasn't rambling too much. I know that I wanted to get a lot off my chest, because as you can tell, it's something that's actually important to me, because I'm like, I don't like when people show up in such a way that it makes other people look bad, and it deters people from using modalities or coaches or certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Certain people for healing, because one person makes it look like, a lot of nonsense, and it ruins it for other people. So I just want... we'll probably talk about it more another time. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much for joining. And it's been lovely getting this off my chest, because it's been sitting on my chest for about a week. So thank you for listening, and I love you guys so much. As always, if you have any questions or want to talk about anything in this podcast or any of the previous ones, please reach out on any of my platforms. And I wish you all love, light, healing, and I hope you have a wonderful, mindful day. Take care. Choosing to work on mindfulness in everyday life is a big step to a more positive mindset, to relieving unnecessary stress, and to living a more mindful life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please remember to follow and rate the show. There are also links in the description to check out my website, where you can subscribe to my email list or get info on my ongoing coaching programs and what else I have to offer. You can also follow my wellness and mindset coaching Instagram and Facebook for daily motivation, updates, and free offers. Social media is a great place to connect, and I do love connecting to those that reach out for guidance. If you want to chat more about this topic, please feel free to reach out on any of my platforms. I would love to have an open discussion about how this resonates with you. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful, mindful day. Until next time.